Hi guys, Dan Jackson here. Thank you very much for watching this video. In this video, I'm going to show you how I used this to analyze this. Let's jump straight in. This is a real deal that we did in 2019. It's a 6-bed property in Wimbledon that has 2 en-suites and 2.5 additional bathrooms. So essentially there were 2 bedrooms on each floor, 2 of them were en-suites and 4 shared 2 bathrooms. Really nice property, very, very nice indeed. Now, if we're looking at the deal analyzer, we can see that we've got a series of orange cells. These are the cells that we're editing. So if we start off, we look at SW19 as being the property location. So if I put SW19 in, now this populates this field here. It's only useful really to understand supply and demand in that market. So in SW19, this data is from Spare Room. We can see that there are 366 rooms for rent against 900 rooms wanted, which means there is almost 3 times as much demand as there is supply, which equates to 246% demand. Useful to understand what the market's doing. Obviously in London the market is always relatively undersupplied. So this has got a six bedrooms, so from the drop down we select 6. The rent to the landlord, now this was initially on the market for 4,400, and we were going to put 6 tenants in it, so 6 single tenants, each having a single room. In this section here, this is where we put our best and worst case scenarios in terms of room rates. So we were looking at somewhere around about 950 for the 2 rooms downstairs that shared a bathroom, 980 for both of the en-suites, and then 950 for the rooms on the top that shared another bathroom. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario, in terms of setup costs, which is this section here, the property was already licensed. It didn't need any refurb, so it was really just a question of furniture, and there was already a fair amount there. So we estimated, I know this sounds bonkers, we estimated £1,000 for the furniture and £500 as miscellaneous. We don't pay a month's rent in advance, and we no longer pay deposits. But if you paid for a refurb or a license or any regulatory work, deposits, sourcing, month's rent or miscellaneous, that's where you'd put the numbers here. In terms of worst case scenario, we estimated that worst case we'd spend £2,000 on the furniture and that we would need to do a little bit of refurb. So those were our setup costs. Step 4, select which numbers to use. We'll jump back to that once we've filled the rest of the spreadsheet out. In terms of finance, so if you are planning on using finance, this is where you'd put that information in, and this just works out what the monthly repayment would be. So I'll just give you an example. Let's say we're looking to borrow £1,000 at 10% over 1 year. You'll see that the monthly repayment for that would be £92 a month. So 92 times 12 is essentially 1,100, which would be the total repayment if you borrowed £1,000 at 10% over 1 year. We're currently not planning on using finance on this deal, but if you were using finance, you switch this to yes, you can see that that £92 becomes a monthly cost. Let's just nudge that off for the time being, but you can use that again if you're using finance. In terms of using voids, our void calculation is over here. I've discussed voids in a previous video, and on a property such as this, we would estimate that we would have 2 changeovers per year, which is essentially 2 6-month contracts. We actually know now with our data that the average tenure in our properties is between 10 and 11 months, so the changeovers are actually less than 2. And we would also put 5 days in here, e.g. a working week empty on each changeover. We now know that we can improve upon that, and we're probably operating less than 1% voids. but that would be a safe calculation to use. And then if we jump into this section here, this is bills. This is how much the property costs to run on a monthly basis. These estimates here show us cost per number of tenants. This is based on a fair amount of data that we've accrued over time. But if this doesn't work for you, you can use a bespoke estimate. For example, you could say, no, I know it's going to cost me £440 and I want to use this figure rather than this figure. So you can see this £440 goes into this particular section here as running costs. So when I'm talking about setting this up now, I've completed the setup process. So if I then select best, what this means is that this analyzer is now using the best case scenario for room rates and the best estimate that we have for setup costs. So this deal would bring in a total of £5,760 a month, and it would cost to the landlord £4,400. Running costs would be £440 and the void cost would be £158. Now if we jump down to does the deal stack section, this deal currently would make £762 per month, which at the current costs would essentially give me an indicator that it's got potential as a deal. So with these numbers, I wouldn't be looking to do this deal at this level. And in fact, we spent some time negotiating with the landlord, and we eventually got the room rate down significantly. But our starting point, sorry, his counter offer was 4,100. And at that level, with our best case estimates, you can see that we're now somewhere towards a deal that works for us. Our worst case estimates, however, we would still be a little bit nervous about doing this deal, because if we were only able to get that level of rent, we wouldn't be hitting the numbers that we forecasted. Although we were quite bullish on this because it was a good property in a good location, we were thinking we'd be looking at best case scenarios. We went back and we agreed that price with the landlord. So at the best case scenario, this deal was now making 21.9% after costs, and we liked that number. At the worst case, it was making 893, which is 16.6%, which was also acceptable in this case. In terms of where the setup costs come into the analysis, if you look here, we've got break-even month and it says OK. I like to have deals that break even within 9 months. This deal breaks even in month 2, so 1.68 it breaks even in the best case, and in the worst case it breaks even in 3.36. So we can see that there was really no issue with the setup costs and in terms of the break even month. So at the best case scenario, this deal, when we were paying 3,900 to the landlord and it was costing us 440 per month, with a void estimate of 2.7, which equates to £158, the property was making £1,262 per month, which equated to a 21.9% return, which worked for us. And that was the level that we did this deal at. In terms of rents that we are making somewhere between best and worst case scenario. So we're making slightly less than the 1,262 per month on this particular deal. So there you have it, a deep dive into the deal analyzer on a real deal that we did last year. We use this spreadsheet for every single deal that we do, and it's really, really useful to ensure that we repeat the same process over and over and over again, which is absolutely critical when you're analysing lots of deals. It takes the emotion out of analysing deals, which is super important. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.